You probably don't remember me, but I actually worked at Hestia.
You were a prep cook for 2 months.
Was it 2 months?
I fired you because you always overcooked the pasta.
Now this is excellent. This is a 2012 Pinot from just 20 miles away.
So do you know about the pig?
Why do you want a pig?
It's my peg.
Oh, okay. That's great. That's a great business. It's an expanding industry. It's.
Someone stole it.
I really, I respect you, Chef. I always have. But I'm running a business here, and people have expectations. Critics, investors, so forth. And truffles are a key part of the whole concept of the winter menu, and they need to be the top of the line. So you understand. I have the utmost respect for you. Utmost.
What is the concept here?
Well, we're interested in taking local ingredients native to this region and just deconstructing them. You know, making the familiar feel foreign, thereby giving us an even greater appreciation of food as a whole.
This is the kind of cooking you like?
It's cutting edge. It's very exciting.
Exciting.
I mean, everybody loves it.
You like cooking it?
Absolutely.
Derek, what was it you always used to talk about opening and wasn't in a pub?
Everyone loves it here. This is a huge success.
Why didn't you open your pub?
I don't know that I really wanted. I mean, that was such a long time ago.
When I fired you, I asked you what you wanted to do. You said you have a few rooms upstairs. A real English pub.
Did I say that?
Yes.
Nobody wants pubs around here. It's just a terrible investment.
What was going to be your signature dish?
Liver Scotch eggs with a honey curry mustard.
So, looking at your life, David, it is, I wonder, like, and I mean this like in the best way, like, how are you not in more things? Like, you have this wonderful career. I know you're a big guy when it comes to plays, and you're a big theater guy, but like your early work, I mean, having been blown away by Pig, and I just like, I wonder, I'm like, how is, and I read the comments on the internet when people are watching the scene from which we'll get to with you and Nicolas Cage and Pig, and people are like, David carries, David goes toe to toe, David. Like, I just like the ability's there. I mean, you're in a ton of things, and I'm not like you're a very established, accomplished, and wonderful actor. I just like, I feel like I should be seeing you more. I mean, I guess that's a compliment.
It is. Thank you, and I agree. I just, honestly, I never quite figured out how it works. It's weird. I was just reading. I read biographies a lot, particularly of people that I know, like that I tangentially know. So recently I read. I've just finished up Henry Winkler's biography, which is lovely.
Nice.
And prior to that was reading Ron and Clint Howard's biography called The Boys, which is about when they were kid actors. And I'd worked with Ron on one of his last acting things back in 1981, maybe, and they talked about that, both of them. I mean, in their ways, about the thing of having early success and then not knowing how to continue it. When Ron was finished with the Andy Griffith Show, he was like 14 or something, and he thought, okay, now my career's taken off. And what he wasn't aware of is that there's kind of a dead zone between the ages of 14 and 18 where you don't get hired if you're a kid actor, because they'll hire someone, what they call, used to be 18 YT TPY, to play younger, 18 to play younger. So they would get 18-year-olds, because if you're under 18, you can work, you got a limited number of hours you can work, you got to have a tutor, so it's more expensive to hire someone like that. So Ron found that out when he was 14, and then suddenly did not work for 5 years, and he was like, and then he started doing stuff. Well, when I, like, straight out of the gate, I came in, started pretty much when I was 18. I worked a little bit in New York, did some theater there, and came out to LA, and immediately started working and playing the roles that they wouldn't give to real 17-year-olds, because I looked really young until I was, at least in my mid 20s or something. And for me, it was an interesting time then. That would have been like the early 80s, and television at the time was really not good. I mean, mostly it was not good. And I had this awareness that any actor can get caught in a role, like on a TV show, and be locked into that forever and never work again. As television, certainly in features, there was, at that point, there really was no crossover. If you did television, you did not do features.
Right.
And, if you were a movie actor, you only did television at the very end, if that's all there was. It was.
And now that line now is blurred, right?
It's completely obliterated. Yeah. Because there's kind of not really a difference now, because movies get made for television. I mean, they made TV movies, what they called movies of the week, which I did a lot of when I was younger.
Right.
And which were, movies made for television, right? But at the time, I was like had in my mind, I was deathly afraid of being Gilligan.
Right.
Being Bob Denver, who was showing up like, in his 50s, and he's still wearing the hat, the Gilligan hat, so people would know who he was. And, or being sort of pegged it's sort of a wacky next door neighbor thing, and then just never working. So part of that was, I think my energy was a little in avoidance of stuff. Like I turned down stuff thinking, I don't know that I want to do that, or these things.
Right.
And, and I also, right out of the gate, I did the leads in a couple of things. I mean, like literally my first thing when I got out here was the lead in a PBS TV movie called Life on the Mississippi, based on Mark Twain's thing. And I had the lead in it because the guy who was cast, I'm pretty sure it was Dennis Christopher. Remember him from Breaking Away? That was his big thing.
Oh yeah, okay. Right? Now that you say Breaking Away, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
So, and I think he was supposed to play young Mark Twain, and he broke his arm or something. So last minute they recast and cast me, who was just turning 18, like the day they started shooting. So I got to do this really great, leading role with Robert Lansing, who is a terrific actor, who was a TV actor mostly, and some other folks were in there. John Pankow, who's a character actor who was on Mad About You, and may have something now, but and he was in it, and so I did that. And Spring Break was not too long after that, which I got the lead in that.
Underrated, very underrated.
Okay. So there were other parts and things that would come up, and I was thinking, I should be doing like lead things in this, and I was offered more smaller things, but was kind of reluctant to do them. And in hindsight, I probably should have done them. There were a bunch of movies, little things that one just came across the other day. Movie with that Matt Dillon did, the Flamingo Kid, I think.
Yeah.
And I think I was close to getting one of the smaller parts in that, which in hindsight I should have done, and I think I turned down.
Yeah. Yeah.
So so I did probably more turning down stuff without really just so I there was a momentum that I think I kind of lost, and then uh, at a certain point I just didn't know how to get work. It's like they call, I audition, and it's kind of how it is mostly. You get a call from your agent,
I
you go
get
out
it.
for stuff. But as far as being proactive about it, the few times that I tried to be proactive about getting work just didn't work, or ended up being embarrassing.
Right. Right. Right.
And in hindsight,
You're
I
almost like
think,
you're damned if you do almost, and then when you try it, like
yeah,
it's like don't do it. You have to. You're waiting on opportunity and perhaps some.
yeah. Well, I think in my in the wisdom of many years gone by, I have discovered that I think people uh, are built one way or the other. There are people who can initiate something, have an idea, go after it, and just get things done.
Right.
And those people we look at and we go, how do you do that? But the rest of us, or most of us, I think, and myself, I think that what it's about is being in the right place, the right mental space. And when opportunities arise, you know that this is something to go after, and you don't overthink it, and you just go, yeah, okay, this is it.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, to jump way ahead, Pig just came out of, it's a great story about how that just came about, and there was nothing that I had anything to do with, except that the timing was just dead perfect, and it was there, and it was kind of handed to me in an amazing way. But
to touch on a few things that you read, so you talked about reading Ron Howard's book early on.
Mm-hmm.
So you were in Splash. You played one of the not the official title, but one of the moron twins.
Yeah.
I love Splash. Is one of those movies
near and dear
to my heart. It is such a great movie.
It is. I'm very proud of that one. That's one
got a
of
big
those
heart.
that, and it's just it's so sweet, and it's not saccharine. It's just it just really.
Is that one of
really
Ron's?
nailed it.
Is that Ron's first big one? Would you say
It was? I think his first studio film. He did a Corman film. He did like one that he acted in and directed, and I don't know if he'd done anything else before. Did he do Night Shift? Was that before that or after? I'm not sure.
I didn't want to look it up, but I thought Splash was his first big feature.
It could have been. It could have been. I mean, it was right up front. But and I got that because I had worked with him in a TV movie called Bitter Harvest.
Okay.
And we shot it in Northern California. It was based on a true story about a time in Michigan, I think, where all the cows were suddenly getting sick. And it turned out that like although I don't think they named the company by name in the movie, it was like the Monsanto company made rat poison and cow feed, and they got mixed up, and they were feeding all the cattle rat poison. And it was the kind of poison where it gets into your fat cells and it never goes away.
Oh, boy,
so it was just so they had to literally just kill off the dairy industry, and they were obviously, the dairy industry in Michigan was very reluctant to do that because it's an industry. You can't just say, oh, we're killing people, so let's shut down the industry, because what do you do? So but I worked with Ron on that. I was kind of played his farmhand, so we were just up in Northern California for a month or so, and
could you see how special? Could you see how special Ron was early on? I mean,
I
knew him. Yeah.
Yes, he's always been such a wise individual. I mean, as a kid, he was, and he was just even when I was working with him on that, he was you could just tell he was just working on the next thing, and was just very, very focused, and and he was reading Frank Capra's biography. I remember, because I read it after that. And he was just very passionate about filmmaking, and and knew a lot of stuff, and we had great conversations about movies and inspirations and stuff.
Yeah,
So.
and the movies you're in, the early, especially the ones early on, they have such like just sentimental value. Like they're so great. Like Splash is like at the heart of so many people who certainly grew up in the '80s. It's just such a special movie. I was dying to ask you all day. I said I got to ask him this. So, you have 2 scenes with Tom Hanks. You got a funny one in Turner and Hooch. Yeah, I guess you have a funny one in Splash too.
Yeah,
So is that by chance, or is that?
Oh yeah.
Do you know Tom, or is that just?
No, I have come across him 3 times. Those were 2 of them. There were six years apart there, and one of the things that I found amazing about him, we worked on, it was Splash. I actually met him. I did a TV pilot a few years before that. There was a short-lived series called Best of the West.
Right.
Which was shot on the Paramount lot, and it was right in, but the stage we were using was in between Taxi on one side and Bosom Buddies on the other side. And so when people are shooting stuff, when you're doing sitcoms like that, they have a bleachers where there's an audience thing. So when you're not working on one thing, you might go next door and just sit in the bleachers and watch them rehearse whatever they're doing over there. Right. So and so I remember Tom and Peter Scolari and a couple of other folks just coming over and sitting and watching our thing when we were doing it, and sometimes we'd be over watching their thing. So there was that, and I think when we did Splash, which was like in '83, I think we shot that, and I did Turner and Hooch. I got cast in because Henry Winkler was the original director on that.
That's right. That's right.
And
there was a thing with him and Tom Hanks, wasn't there? Yeah.
Yeah. They didn't. They didn't get on,
which is crazy.
I know,
David.
Well,
they're 2 of the night.
I know, right? Yeah, they're like 2 of the sweetest people in the world.
How does that even happen?
Well, it's interesting. And reading Henry's biography just now, you find out all this stuff. How really, really insecure Henry was. Yeah. In particular back then. I mean, he did the Fonz, which was like that character came out literally at the audition. He walked in and suddenly that character was there because he'd walked into to audition for things. There's a row of people who were all very, tough guys and like that. And he's going, okay, I don't know if it's just like I see all these people there, they're going to get cast. And he walks in and he goes, I've got the sweat that is under my arms is just like this. And then he goes, and then he just decided that with his scene partner, he was just going to, he only had a few lines, and one of them was just, he said, I'm going to make that guy sit down. And he just turned on this character and went and did it, and boom. And so, and then he was the Fonz. He was a Beatle for several years, with crowds showing up and
great way of
like
putting
that.
Great way of putting that. He was a Beatle, yes.
And with that kind of, literally crowds showing up where they went, and I met him. I did a TV series that he produced called Mr. Sunshine with Jeffrey Tambor as a blind college professor. And it was very funny. It was a good show. It didn't get picked up, but it was a little bit of a political thing. People at ABC changed, heads, and then they don't want to put on the shows that belong to the guy that they just replaced. So that happens a lot. But so I did this show with Henry, and then a couple of years later, he was hired to do Turner and Hooch, and then between when he hired me and when we actually shot, there was a new director, and it was Henry will say he over directs. He talks a lot. Yeah. When I was doing Mr. Sunshine, he would come to me and he would give me suggestions for things, which, while I loved the interplay with it, there's a part of me that's going, am I doing it wrong? I must be doing it wrong, because he's giving me a lot of direction.
The longer he talks to you, the more he says, you're like, wait a second, do I not, am I
that off? Yeah, right. So that's that can be a thing. Interestingly, I'm just sidebarring from one thing to another, but I auditioned for the real thing, the Sure Thing, which was Rob Reiner's maybe second movie, maybe
Right.
after Spinal Tap, maybe before, right around there.
Yeah.
But with John Cusack, ultimately ended up doing it, right? And I auditioned for that, and the audition went really well. And Rob, just he walked me. I think he may have walked me back to my car. So I'm thinking, geez, I did really well. This is great. And then I didn't get the main part, but then they called me in for another part in the thing, like maybe the Tim Robbins part or something. And so I auditioned again, and again it was like he was effusive and he was great, and he talked to me after the thing. I'm thinking, this is really great. I'm good. And apparently he did that with everybody. He'd been on auditions where people got no feedback, so he gave everybody like the best feedback. But it was like a little like, this is great. Am I getting the part or am I not? But so yeah, it can be actors can be weird as directors.
Yeah, I think Hanks, hands down, is the best actor in the history of cinema. I mean, people can talk about it.
Yeah, he's terrific.
I mean, if I go movie for movie, I think he is the absolute best. And
I'm just looking around. I think I'm reading his new novel that he's got, which is
okay.
It's very good.
Yeah, you're a heavy reader. That's impressive.
This is,
so this will be the silliest question I ask you all day. How was Hooch?
Hooch was the Hooch. Here was the thing with Hooch. There were 3 of them, I think. They were all brothers.
Huge dogs, right?
Huge dogs. Yeah, it's a dog de Bordeaux. I think it's a French Mastiff. Is what
the Mel's Mastiffs are all kinds of Mastiffs.
Just a head like a cinder block. It's just and anytime I see one, I know I can go and say hi and introduce myself because anybody who has one has seen Turner and Hooch, so that's kind of an automatic thing. Of course. But yeah, there was the only one whose name I remember is Beasley. He was the face dog, he was the main. But there was like one of them who chased stuff particularly, and another one whose favorite thing in the world was jumping off of high places. So anytime you see that he's jumping out a window or off a thing, it's that dog. So I was working mainly with Beasley, and in that scene, I'm wedged into the scene was they Hooch sees the bad guy and chases after him, and Tom and Reggie Bell Johnson are chasing after him, and they commandeer my car. So I'm suddenly in the middle of the front driver's thing, and Tom's driving, Reggie's on the side there, and the dog is behind me. Right. So my job, besides acting, was I had a bag of meat in my hand, in my lap, and I had treats that I'm constantly trying to get Hooch's attention. And as soon as he was facing forward, we could do the scene.
Right.
But he would be going looking around, so I'm going, okay, come on, go, and then we're trying to get in as much of the scene as possible. Yeah. And we would just drive around in a circle in Monterey for. I think we did a few days of that. But.
It's crazy, David, because your movies are like home runs. My Blue Heaven was a sneaky good movie. You work with Arnold. In Total Recall. Mm-hmm. We're gonna get to Nicolas Cage in a second. We talked Tom Hanks. We've already talked. Everybody is associated with Splash. So Eugene Levy. So there's so much like here. It's amazing. It's almost like when you step into it, you're there and you handle yourself like a pro. It's just amazing.
And they're for the most part the things that kind of perpetuate. I mean, the ones that last were very short things. I mean, Splash was 2 days. Now, for me, the great thing about that was that it was a day on the beach and a day on the boat. Basically, I had several scenes on the boat and one scene on the beach there, with the. We're not twins. That was on the beach, and then on the boat was the was.
He calls you. Yeah, it's right. The guy calls you the moron twins.
He calls me the moron twins. I go, we're not twins. And the line that they cut was, "We're cousins. So are our parents." But they didn't. They decided that was too much or something. But and then on the boat, I got the thing with, "Hey, Mr. Corned Beef, what you looking for down there? Buried treasure." And let's pee down this air hose. But because they were supposed to be shot like on a Monday, and then they were going to be in a different place. And my agent somehow said, well, let's change it from a daily to a weekly, or a weekly to a daily. And so basically we shot the first week and the last week of the production, and I was on salary for the entire thing, which never happens. But
Never.
So my Disney residuals have been my favorite.
David, the other thing is, like, I brought up Spring Break earlier, very underrated, and the director Sean Cunningham, for those listening or watching, was also director of Friday the 13th. So I mean,
yes,
but that Spring Break, you have to put yourself in that time, those types of movies. Like, I'm not comparing it to Casablanca. I mean, it's it's its own thing, but it's in its own thing. It's a fun watch. I mean,
is, and it's a relatively clean movie for what it is.
Yes, what it is, and the time
period. Yeah. I was. There were a couple of movies around that time. Porky's was one I remember, which ended up shooting in Miami while we were shooting Spring Break. I didn't want to do that. It was a little too creepy for me, really, Yeah. And Spring Break was just
Porky's is weird. Porky's is weird. I listen. I'm not going to be a hypocrite. I laughed at it,
Yeah,
whatever. But that's when I was, a teenager, young. It's one of those movies that's it's kind of filthy start to finish. Like, it's not.
Yeah. And it was just like I was looking at it, kind of going, I don't know that I want to be the person walking around.
Yeah.
So again, but that was me, being kind of protective of something, my dignity, my whatever it was. So I don't think that was a bad call to pass on that one. But Spring Break. So my thing about Spring Break is that, in hindsight, I love now that people love it.
Yeah.
At the time, I really wanted it to be better than it was.
Right.
There was it was just that much. I mean, it's like this is a thing that I discovered. I don't know if I really owned this early on, but I don't get a say in what people like or not.
Right.
People like the things, and I'm like that too. There are movies that I enjoy that I know the people that made them are probably not happy with, but I like them. Pootie Tang comes to mind, which Louis C.K. directed that and got fired and was replaced, and it was re-edited. And I heard him saying somewhere, I know a lot of people say that Pootie Tang is a good movie. They're wrong. So he's just like, let's not support. No, it is not a good movie. But with Spring Break, that was the first time I think I started to get like actually recognized, like while being around, like walking around the mall or something, and people would see me and connect me with the thing. Yeah. And it made me kind of uncomfortable. And I think part of it was because, like, I wanted to go, I've done better stuff, but it's like, that's not none of my business.
Right.
I just do the things, show up, do the best I can, and people will like the things they like, and not the things they don't like. And it's like, I'm just like this little part, and I just come in and put in my piece of the puzzle or paint my little corner there, and then go, okay.
Yeah, and you did some fun. You did some fun TV in the '80s. I loved Charles in Charge. I loved Alf. You did some fun. And I want to say this. So, making my transition into Pig, I swear I'm going on memory alone. I did not look this up. Well, I knew you were in Murder, She Wrote. So in transitioning to Pig, that's not the first time you played a chef, right? Did you play a chef in Murder, She Wrote, or is my memory bad? Or a chef?
No, in Murder, She Wrote, I was a deputy sheriff, because that was kind of the joke, was that I was the acting chief of police.
Okay, gotcha. So I mean,
because the other guy was, because the chief of police was. Yeah, I don't think I've done. Wait, although I'm picturing me in a chef's outfit and something else, and I can't think what.
I remember your career. I thought you were a chef in something else, and I might be incorrect, but I thought I remember enough to bring it up in an interview, and I'm usually not always wrong, but this might be one of those times. So, so I got to say, just on initial feelings, like when I saw Pig in the theater, David, I was so effing blown away, and I said, by your performance certainly. But when I saw Cage, I said, this is his best work ever. And he confirmed it last year
isn't it?
On Colbert when he said, I'm most proud of this movie. I left the theater. I kept telling people, Pig is the most. Everyone's like, is it crazy, Nick? You know, is it?
No, it's Nick in no other film. There's nothing else that he's like this in. It's great.
Yes, it's unbelievable. That's next level awesome. It's
it really is.
Totally screwed over at Academy time. The fact that this movie got no nominations is kind of a joke. And listen, it's not about. It
got a bunch of things in other things, but yeah,
it got a lot of awards. But this is why I hate the Academy Awards, because I don't hate the Academy. I get frustrated. I get frustrated with the Academy Awards because I feel like this is a movie that deserved some type of recognition at the Academy as far as something. Right, whether it's screenwriting, whatever. Give it to. But like Nick deserved a shot at this. I mean, your performance is just so out of this world. Like, and that's kind of goes back to my original point when we talked about, more opportunity. I feel like when people saw this, how are they not like saying, "Holy shit!" Like, let's call this guy. Let's bring this guy aboard. Like, what's wrong?
The good news there is my auditions have definitely ticked up since then.
Good.
After when it came out, I realized this is a good time for me to start initiating a little bit, and so I got an excellent manager, and I've got agents in LA, and so yeah, I'm being seen for far more than it's all due to this. Absolutely.
Yeah, he is, and you that scene, like you handle yourself, like even the little nervous laugh you have. I've watched it over and over again. Like it's just the way you handle it. Like some people are. I feel like when you have an actor of his ability, and then you have other actors, I feel like he almost is so big in personality and talent, it outshines the other actors. Mm-hmm. I never felt that way. I was like, oh my God, David is going head to head with this guy, and.
Yeah. So the last few years, I'm living in the Northwest, doing second job, doing house sitting, innkeeping sometimes. The summer of 19, my wife and I went to Michigan to be the assistant innkeepers at a resort in Upper Michigan somewhere. Never been, but and we were supposed to be there from May until October, and there was like a bonus if we stayed the entire thing. And it was just the weirdest summer because we were there, and this entire cast of characters. The day we got up there, the owner said, "Oh, listen, little heads up, we're firing the full-time innkeepers. We've got some new people coming in, but for the next couple of weeks, could you help us kind of run it?" And the folks that we came in with, for some reason, hated that idea. Like we were supposed to came in as equals, and for some reason now we're their bosses or something. And I am like the least bossy person in the world, but it just was like now we were enemies, and it was weird. And then the people who got fired refused to leave, so they were squatting while we're there, and it just got even weirder. And eventually they left, and we said after weird, almost violent things happening, we said to the owners, "Okay, you guys are good now. You'll understand if we take off now, right?" So we rented a car heading back to Portland, and on the way back west, I get a phone call from my agent, who I'd forgotten to tell I wasn't even in town, and they said, "Oh, there's a new Nicolas Cage movie coming to town, so there's an audition next week." And had the job gone well in Michigan, I wouldn't have been able to do it. So it was just literally on the way home, this audition comes through, and I read the scene. And the thing I've always said that is kind of the ideal situation is that a casting director picks up a script, and they go through, and they go, "Oh, that's the David Knell part." But nobody knows what that is anymore, because if you think of like all the parts that I've done, I was in my 20s and I was goofy, and I did like there's a flavor to the things that I did.
Gotcha.
But that was I'm substantially, I may look good, but I'm substantially older than I was then. So anyway, this script came through, and the casting director, who did know me, said, "Well, this is the David Knell part." And honestly, everybody in town read for Finway as well as all the other parts. But I just got it. I totally understood the character. I understood and it's beautifully written. Let me say that first of all. Michael Sarnowski wrote this amazing script, and every second that you see on my face, every emotional turn that I make in there, and there's like 10 of them that happen in there, is in the script. And so I auditioned and I got the part, and then before actually doing it, I did something that I'd never done before, which is I called the casting director and I said, I want to see if I can get some time with the director before we shoot, because otherwise I'm showing up on the day and, he's seen me audition. I haven't met him yet, so I didn't
Right.
meet him at the audition or anything. But I said, I want to meet with him. And he said, yeah, absolutely. Let's have coffee. And so what I said to him was a couple of things. I said, you saw what I did in the audition, so you know the direction that I want to get. I want to make sure, because I may have done a couple of different versions slightly, but I said, I would love to push this as hard as possible in that direction, if that's what you want, because I know I'm going to be up against Nicolas Cage, who can act the shit out of anything, right? But I said, I literally Googled what's it like to work with Nicolas Cage, because I didn't know. He told me, he said, yes, what I did was dead on. He said because he said, I wrote, there are like 10 transitions in there, and he said, you were the only one who got all of them. So I went, okay, that's good. But I asked, I said, so what is he like? And he said, honestly, he is the most easygoing, generous person I've ever worked with. I went, okay, great. So I showed up, and I also said to Michael, I said, if there's anything you want when we're working, I'm going to try and give you variations on moments and things. But if there's anything you want more of, or you want me to pull back, please, I'm yours, right? Just whatever you want out of this. And part of my thinking there is, there have been roles that I've auditioned for and maybe did more at the audition than I did on screen, because being either afraid of doing too much in the moment or being a little cautious. But if I have one criticism about my own work, is that I don't always push as hard as I could for something. Right. Sometimes I see myself do stuff that to my mind isn't as interesting as it could have been, maybe. Right. Few exceptions. I enjoyed what I did in Splash. That was just goofy shit. Yeah. But it was like getting to really just do this weird thing, But I was also concerned that, like, I had this sort of fantasy thing where if it had been not Nicolas Cage, but like Robert De Niro, and I've heard of him doing this, like going and running the scene, and De Niro turning and going, is that what he's going to fucking do? And then you go, oh my God, no, it's okay. So I can't do what I did at the audition. So that's why I wanted to talk to Michael first. Right. So that I wouldn't have that situation. I wanted to make sure that he was totally on board with what I was doing. And then, come to find out that, so we arrive on the day, get in the van, Nick's in full makeup. So he looks, this beard, and he's bloody and everything. Just like on the screen, right? Just like on this, just like that. That's how I meet him. He's already like that. And we're just like driving from where the makeup is over to the set there, and so we're just like this, and we go and we sit down at the set, and Michael says, okay, let's run the scene. He said, I don't need full performances or anything, but let's just run it through. And I'm thinking, no, I need to give the full performance right now, so he knows what I'm getting into, right? I mean, so Nick knows. Sure. And so we did the scene, and I just gave it 1,000% right out of the gate. And we did this scene, and it's this great scene with this. It's an 8-minute scene, and it's got this arc, and it ends in just this, catharsis there. And Nick is whispering the scene, right? So I'm thinking that I'm going to be reading against "Where's my pig?" And he's just totally like, Derek, where's my pig? And it's like, so, and I'm this close to him, and his eyes are really blue. He's just really hypnotic, and I'm looking and going, and I texted my wife. I said, his eyes are bluer than mine. This is a little, and so we ran through the scene the first time, and Nick kind of leans back and goes, all right, okay, like this is going to be fun. It was like, great, okay. So, and then we just played. Then it was just it was a dance. We just did it all day long. Different angles before lunch, and they're constantly having to change the lighting because it's an actual restaurant. The sun is going from there to there, and they lit it so that you never saw that we were shooting all day. But we just did this scene and just really were dancing with the subtleties of the dialogue and everything, and just making sure that I'm saying stuff he's got that monologue, right? And my thing with monologues is that monologues only work if you can see the impact that they're having on someone else. Right. Yeah. In Pig, there's only a couple of cut scenes that were cut, and one of them, another Portland actor, had this great monologue in there that got cut from the thing, because he's basically saying this monologue to Nicolas Cage, and when they cut back to Nick's like this, and he never reacts to this monologue that this guy's saying. So the monologue seemed to have no impact. In our scene, he's got the monologue, and my job was to make sure that his monologue landed, right? Because as the audience, and there's also another thing that happens in there, which is the character of Amir, Alex Wolff's character.
Oh, he's so good in it too.
They cut to him watching this thing happening between Nick's character and my character. So you've got multiple levels of impact, right? You've got Nick saying that whole thing about we don't get a lot of things to really care about, and that whole thing, and how that's just ripping me apart, because it's like suddenly out of nowhere, this guy's reminding me of a dream that I had very good reasons for not following that dream, but now it's like I can't even. I just reduces me to this to just this primal, like I don't know. I thought I don't. And Alex watching us, and there's just so much about that, and the close-ups on everything.
Yeah, when they pan on Alex, it is so perfect.
It is, and just you see that, and he's crying.
Yeah.
Yeah,
David. So a few questions from that. When you shoot that scene and the people see these two guys just going back and forth, I guess three with Alex. Do they applaud when it's all over? Like, what is the background actors like? I always like, are they like in awe? Like, I feel like
at the end of the day, which was really sweet. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So David, I've been trying to process this scene since I saw it in the theaters, and I was just so blown away. My favorite movie of 2021 for sure, 100%. I head over heels for it. Do they? I'm trying to figure out if Rob's heart was in the right, if Nick Cage, heart was in the right place. Like, because he just tells him, like, this wasn't your dream. Like, these people don't care. You don't care. Like, I don't know if he's trying to get him back on, if part of him is trying to get you back on track, but Derek back on track again. Like, I try to look at it from multiple angles. Can this conversation between these two be taken positively in any way possible by Derek Finway?
Yeah, well, I honestly, I'm still bouncing around things. I've talked to Michael about it. I think there's another story in there to be told, which is about Finway opening his pub and getting back on track. So I've got a lot of stuff in there, and I think, and because especially since watching the reaction to that, and how people who have seen that and watched that scene, and people say they come back to watch that scene,
100%,
and how, it touches something also something from the time period. We'd just come through COVID then, and a lot of people started really reassessing their lives and their work and how they got to where they are today. And I think that somehow just the confluence of the scene itself and when it took place, really just started making people go, how did I get here?
Yeah. Yeah.
What, like, did I mean to be here?
David, do you and Nick have a moment off camera, just the two of you, saying, "Hey, man, that was awesome"? Like,
yeah,
this is great.
It was really, Well, I saw him very, very briefly at the premiere, and it was just like we'd had a baby together or something. It was just this one little but I still haven't gotten a chance to really talk to him about it. I hope to someday. I'll run
David,
somewhere.
do you remember Derek Finway's signature dish at his English pub?
The curry. What was it? Yes, I can see them. The sky. Oh yeah, liver Scotch eggs with a honey curry mustard.
Very good. You are no joke. You are the real deal. You are the real deal. I don't know. I think I had both the cinematographer and the composer on. The composer, the music, and the way this is
so beautiful, isn't it?
I still am pissed in 2024. Like, you missed the boat on this. Not you, but like people.
Yeah.
Like, this movie is shot. It's so stunning. The music, the score is so good. Like,
there's so much. So much of what goes into promoting films for awards. It takes money. There are very expensive campaigns that go into that, and Neon, which is since then especially, I think this really kicked Neon into high gear, and they've really they put out some really great stuff. But I think this was their first thing, and I don't think they had the budget to do any real a big campaign like is kind of necessary. I've had acquaintances who in the past have taken it on themselves to do it. James Cromwell,
wow.
When he did, it wasn't called Pig. What was it called? Babe. Right. Yes. That'll Do Pig. That which was such a beautiful thing for him, and he went and really financed a campaign on his own, and it worked. He got at least nominated for that, and then his career took off again. Yeah. And because he was in kind of a lull then, so that made me very happy when he did that.
His work in The Green Mile was spectacular.
Yeah.
Award. And
he played my dad in some TV movie, and
very cool.
Yeah.
It's trying to figure out, Rob. Nick Cage is it's anger and compassion. Is that it? Is that the
and grief and what that does and how, and I mean, it's
David, do you think he's trying to hurt? Do you think he's trying to hurt him in some way?
Finway? I don't think so. I think he's just really trying to understand what happened to his pig. He's not even really trying to get the pig back. He just wants to know what happened.
Right.
Because I think that's where he got stuck in his grief. He quit the business and doing everything he's doing because just, and he kind of packed himself into a little box in the woods where he could deal with everything again, because he just made his world smaller, and now this happened again. It's kind of forced him into a place of just really needing to know what happened.
But the idea that he knew you were a line cook, the idea that he knew what your dream was,
the
idea that he knew that your signature dish, that's unbelievable. Years later, when he's maybe he's definitely coherent, but he's been through a lot at this point in his life. But my God, he remembered everything about you, which shows
and that was
there's an affection there. There's a caring.
Yeah. And that was his, kind of superpower in the movie. Was he's got that line where he says, I remember every dish and every person that I've ever served. And whether that's true or not, it seems to be, that was the level of artistry that he put into his work, right?
Yeah,
Where
yeah.
where you remember he's so present in everything that he did. But then that's also, if you have that kind of, you put that much of yourself in everything, then you're going to put that much of yourself in your pain as well, and that's what happened.
He also does mention you were fired for overcooking pasta.
Yes.
But I got to tell you, David, I think I remember it wasn't fresh off the pandemic, but there's times where in the theater where I'm just so like, I remember just leaving. Like, I don't want to say I was sobbing, but I was emotional. Like this movie,
it hit
it hits all the feels. And that's what, like, I just like, if there was one movie over the last 5 to 10 years where I'd want people to give it one more look. Like, you're not being like the people who. Let me be clear. I think you have a couple of clips on your YouTube channel. There's somebody else that posted something. Mm-hmm. People were singing your praises. Like they were like, "This movie's phenomenal." Like the love was there. I wish more love was there. I guess that's
it was an interesting thing that when they put out the first trailer. I'm not sure they knew exactly how to pitch it as a trailer, because what happened was people saw the trailer and went, "Oh, good, it's John Wick with a pig."
Yes,
and they thought, and it's Nicolas Cage, and we know what he does, and he's going to be doing now. He's lost his pig, and then and then it was not that at all, because he read the script and he knew that's not what the story is, right. But the fact that they kind of let potential audiences think that that's what it was. Now, movies are, I'll say this. Every movie intends to do well. Whenever you're starting it, when you're marketing it, and everybody along the way wants for it to do well. And when the marketing people get in there, they want as many people to come and see the thing as possible.
Except Pootie Tang. Except
Pootie Tang. I have no idea. But so with this, what they did was they're going Nicolas Cage in as this guy. And people who are Nick Cage fans are going to go no matter what.
Right.
But he has certain, as most stars do, he has baggage that comes along with that, right?
Yes.
And he has made choices that are, even though he's doing this thing that is none of those things, he has made the choices along the way that just showing up in a movie is going to bring people to the assumption that he's going to be doing his kabuki thing or whatever.
Right.
And the very fact that in this I read somewhere he was quoted as saying he read this and said, "Oh, I won't have to act this," which I think is funny. Because I think that.
It sounds like he's mailing it in a bit when he says something like that.
Yeah, but sometimes I think will read a script that's not all that great. Yeah. And if I pick up a script that's not all that great, I think it's very hard to fix a bad script with acting.
Yes.
It's almost impossible.
Yeah.
He thinks it's possible, and so he will go in and it's one of my dad was an actor also, but he'll say, just boy, you acted the shit out of that role. I don't know if that's a compliment or not, but that's like I think he thinks he can go in and just fill it with stuff and it'll work. And in this one, he didn't have to. And but then again, he's still, he brings with him his Nick Cage-ness into this.
Right. Are you getting Leaving Las Vegas, Nick, or are you getting like back?
Yeah, and it's not even that, right? It's like, I mean, there's a whole spectrum, obviously, of Nick Cage, and when another thing I did just before doing the movie was when I was trying to find out who am I going to be working with, really, is that what there's a couple of them where actors will do a video where they do talk about their timeline of projects over the year.
Right.
The GQ thing or Variety.
Oh yeah, they highlight their roles.
Yeah.
It's
the highlights of their career. And he talked about doing Peggy Sue Got Married.
Oh, great movie. Yeah.
Right. Which I know because Helen Hunt, who was a friend of mine back then, played his daughter, I guess.
Yeah.
Right? but he apparently, that was Francis Ford Coppola directed it and wanted him to do it. And he was like, I don't know if I want to do that kind of part. And in this video, I'd heard this as a rumor and it didn't sound true, but he said in his own voice, I said to him, I said, Uncle, I don't know if this is the right part for me. I don't know. I'm kind of going in a different way. And he tried to convince me to do it. And I said, okay, I'll do it if I can do it using the voice of Pokey from the Gumby cartoons. And Coppola said, okay. And I'd heard that as a thing that surely that can't be true.
Right.
But he said, yeah, that was literally what he did.
Wow.
And so that's why the character sounds like freaking Pokey.
Yeah.
Because that's literally what he's doing. But the thing that I got from him talking about that and doing making a few of the other choices that he made was every choice that he makes, even if it's way the hell out there or objectively wrong, we might say, in hindsight, he made that choice in absolute earnesty.
100%. 100%.
He is not
100%
messing around when he does that. And that's not always true with people who do that kind of thing.
You're right, David. And he said, I was reading this today when we were going to speak, and I remember reading it when it came out. It was one of the Variety or one of those. He came out and said, I want you to know, you may not like, I'm getting the gist of it. You may not love all my choices, but please know I never mailed it in on any of them. Like, right. I've given you my best. And I believe him when he says that.
Yeah.
There's rumors, he took this role because he's trying to pay this debt or whatever. That's not him. That's not him.
That all may be the motivation behind it, but when he takes a role, he doesn't phone it in. And I know people who have actors who also have debts who are bitter and are definitely walking through things, and that's just not him, which is kind of endearing, honestly.
Yeah.
I can still disagree with the choices that he makes, but I can look at them and go, no, he meant to do that. So
he's a special guy, David. He's a special guy.
He is.
Like this
really
movie,
is.
This movie, it hits a place in your heart. But I think it's that awesome scene. But I also think it's the rapport with Alex doesn't get enough credit for this movie. He's
just gotta absorb, and he does that so well. He's just watching. He's witness to all that's going on.
And David, that's hard to do when you watch some actors do it because they overact. They can't do it. Alex is completely believable. You believe he's in awe of this man. The tears, like you mentioned, the face.
Yeah, just him watching us do that thing was just really. Yeah, I was like. Yeah, and that was something when we were doing it, I wasn't as aware until you see the thing and go, oh yeah, no, he totally he really helped make that work between the two of us because he's watching this and and he was like watching, these titans here having this thing and being so affected by it that it made our stuff even better, which was really nice.
Yeah. I got one more question, but I want to say this before the question. I cannot tell you how amazing you are in that scene. Honestly, when I left the theater, it's one of the first things that was on my mind was your part. And I think I was trying to get you on for a while. I'm like, I don't, it was a tough time. I was missing you or I wasn't, whatever. But the fact that we were able to connect and I could tell you that it means a lot to me because you were.
Well, thank you. I'm glad we did connect for sure. Yeah.
My last question is this: you mentioned your dad earlier. I know. I thought I read in an interview or somewhere where Dad was in declining health when this was released or around it.
It was.
Did he get a chance to see it? Was my?
He did not. He did not get a chance to see it. In fact, it was literally the day after we shot this that I found out he was in the hospital in New York, and my good friend Lee, who is said, "You're going to New York." She said, "If I'm flying you, you're going. You need to be with your dad right now."
Right.
And it had been a while since I'd been back, and my dad was in the hospital, and he was kind of going in and out, and we had such an amazing time together, and I told him all about this wonderful experience that I had.
Good. That's
and
great.
I told him, and it's like I could tell him, knowing that I'm not spoiling anything because he's probably not going to see the film. But yeah, that was a really great time to be able to share that. And my dad shared some very cool things too. Quick story there. As he was kind of drifting in and out, at one point he kind of wakes up and he says, "Did I ever tell you about my grandfather's vaudeville act?" I was like, "No, what? Tell me." And he said he used to come on stage with a baby carriage. He'd be pushing a baby carriage, and the baby would cry, and he would hit the baby, and it would stop crying, and that was his act. I said, "I don't think you can get away with that today." And he said, "No, back then it killed." And so that kind of fascinated me, because I started like looking up, like researching vaudeville to see was this a thing, and I found it. I found my great grandfather's vaudeville act mentioned in some book about vaudeville. But my dad left out the punchline, which was this. He does that. So yeah, he comes out with a baby carriage, and the baby's crying, and he hits him with a beer bottle. Okay, so it's even worse.
It's even worse than you said. Yeah.
But eventually, the baby stops crying, and he bends over, looks at the baby, and the baby pees in his face. That's the punchline. So it's like, that's it. Okay, that I get. And then, but the thing that I loved about that in hindsight is, I'm very, I have an idea for something funny and I'll make it. Like I just made the other day, I went and saw Dune, and I had the idea for a t-shirt of the poster from Dune. Wait, I have to show you this. I'll show you. This is it. Hold on.
I have yet to see it. Did you like it?
I did. I liked it a whole lot.
Okay. Is that the Big Lebowski?
That's the Big Lebowski. It's Dude. And I so this is, I used AI, and I'm trying to, you talk
very creative. That is very good.
It's AI and it's Photoshop and it's a lot of stuff. But I had that idea for Dude. So anyway, so that's the kind of thing, like
because for those listening, because he's the dude. Like that is Dude, very good. David, that is very good.
So going back to my great grandfather had this idea for a gag, and then had to somehow come up with the mechanism for doing that. So there had to be like a rubber squeeze bulb and a tube, and he had to rig a baby carriage so that when he squeezed the bulb, like beer would spray on his face or something. And I thought, that is who I come from. Yes, that's right.
David, my last thing. What do you think your dad would have said had he saw that exchange with Nick Cage?
I think he would have loved it. It was, yeah. It's one of the funny things that my dad would often do is he'd be watching something. If someone was overacting in a film, he could just stand there and just go, "Stop acting!" and I think for like 99% of Nick Cage's stuff, I could see my dad kind of going, "But pull it back. What? But I think for this, I think he would have been very, very pleased with the fact that he just did not overact at all. Yeah. And that the irony is that in that scene, there were times when I felt like I was acting the shit out of it.
Yeah.
But it was, but just that I'm doing a scene with Nicolas Cage, and how am I the one who feels like I'm overacting? Because he was just, he was just totally just whispering the whole thing. I'm going, "Oh my God, am I doing too much? No, I think this is okay."
Yeah. David, if you make that shirt, I'm seriously, I want to buy one.
I have it. I'll put it on my website. And,
100%. David, thank you for all this time. You are such an amazing actor. So happy this conversation took place. I had so much fun. Thank you for this.